Vedo che la nostra prossima ospite già è collegata, quindi ora la faremo entrare direttamente da Kiev. Intervista esclusiva a una deputata ucraina, la vice capogruppo alla Camera ucraina del gruppo parlamentare di Zelensky. Allora, vi spiego velocemente come verrà strutturata l'intervista. Sarà in inglese, quasi tutta praticamente. Faremo domanda singola con risposta ed eventuale controrisposta. Poi ci sarà la traduzione, insomma, in tempo simultanea praticamente, con Francesco che si occuperà della traduzione. E insomma, questo è quanto. Cercheremo di farvi capire. Io personalmente chiedo scusa se le mie pronunce non saranno ottimali.
Anch'io chiedo venia, ma ci impegneremo, ragazzi.
Tutti
Questa è la
chiediamo
miniera
venia.
internazionale, quindi...
Dai, certo.
Hi, good morning.
Hi,
Good
nice
morning.
to meet
Good
you.
afternoon.
Good afternoon,
I
yes.
think.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So,
a pleasure
Yevgenia.
to have you here.
Yes.
Yevgenia Kravchuk is correct.
It's a good thing that we didn't schedule it for morning because, that would be during the another missile diarrhea that Russia had on Ukraine. We had air raid for like 4 hours in a row.
Ha detto che siamo fortunati che non abbiamo fatto un'intervista questa mattina perché la Russia ha avuto una diarrea di missili sull'Ucraina e quindi c'erano le complicazioni legate.
Yeah, we saw the video you sent to us this morning when we start the live. So we would like to ask you, how is the situation right now?
Right now we have this shortage of electricity in our system, the whole in the country, 50%. So a lot of regions are completely out of electricity, but our, the workers of energy stations are working right now to restore it. In Kiev, partly we do not have electricity, but in my neighborhood I had it, and I had internet, which is really cool because the bad thing when you don't have the light, usually your mobile phone also crashes, and you don't have like any source of news. So I bought myself a small lighter that has radio in it, so I listen to radio to understand what's going on in the world. But for example, I didn't have water, and the heat also went out because you need water in the system to be running to the apartments. But I really hope that it will be restored in 12 hours, 24 hours, because we had similar situation in November, and it took 2 days to restore, but we're getting better and better, and we already have the numbers. So Russia fired 70 something missiles, 76, and more than 60 were taken down by our air defense. And to Kiev and Kiev region, Russians sent 40 missiles, and 37 of them were shot down. So it's pretty good.
How many were shot down? 30?
Where they were shot down in the around.
You said that they shot 70 missiles in Kiev and 60
40 in Kiev.
40. Oh.
Yes, 40, and 37 out of them were shot down and didn't harm any objects of infrastructure. But for example, in regions which are closer to the front line, it's more complicated to catch the missiles because they also use artillery as well. For example, on Kherson, Russians use not missiles but artillery, and artillery cannot be taken by the air defense. So that's why the whole idea is to push Russians more and more, so they will not be using any of our territory to shoot from. But we're so it's weird because it's 10 months, and all people and all businesses are getting used to all these difficulties. Around my neighborhood, all of the small grocery stores have generators, and even if you have blackout, you can go out and buy food and have a coffee. You know, it's really, you know, the spirit and resilience. I have a scheduled meeting after our interview in the restaurant, in the cafe in the center, and I called them, like, do you work? And they said, okay, well, we need 1 hour after the air raid to get everything done. We don't have electricity, but we have a stove, so we can cook on the fire, and we have candles, and we have generator for water. So yes, please come.
Okay, Evgenia, so please me allow to, so thank you for your real-time communication, because that's got a value for us. So please me allow me to do our translation, like, of what you just said.
Yeah, so I will not have to talk a lot. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking notes,
No
real-time
worries.
notes, but so, quindi lei ha detto che tante regioni sono all'elettricità e stanno lavorando per ristorarla. A Kiev, in alcune zone non c'è elettricità, ma sì nel suo quartiere, ma comunque a volte casca lo stesso. Ha detto che lei, anche per sentire gli aggiornamenti, si è comprata una radio, e quindi poi non aveva acqua, il riscaldamento era fuori uso, e l'ultima volta a novembre ci sono voluti 2 giorni per ristabilire tutti i servizi, e quindi stanno un po' anche, insomma, migliorando la capacità di resilienza. Poi ci sono stati lanciati 40 missili su Kiev e 37 sono stati intercettati, e quindi sono stati deviati in zone non sensibili. E il problema però è nelle regioni più vicine al fronte, come a Kherson, ci sono tipo i mortai, l'artiglieria che non può essere tirata giù dalla difesa. Quindi l'idea, appunto, è mandare i russi più lontani possibile al confine per dare profondità alla difesa. E però poi l'ultima cosa molto bella che ha detto è che in 10 mesi le persone sono abituate e sono preparate a questa nuova realtà. Qualsiasi attività ha i generatori, e lei stessa ha detto che a breve avrà un meeting in una zona che è stata colpita un'ora fa dai bombardamenti, però hanno il fuoco, hanno i generatori, e quindi riescono comunque a organizzarsi.
Ok,
Vado avanti? O vai tu?
Ok, come vuoi, se no faccio la prima domanda la posso fare intanto.
Ok, vai.
Yevgenia, I would like to ask you what more can be done to help the Ukrainian population at this time, including the energy problem, and in particular, is Italian support enough? And also, what would you say to the people who say that sending weapons to Ukraine is fueling the conflict? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank that Italian Senate voted just 2 days ago, or like a few days ago, for continuous military support of Ukraine, because it's I can tell you 100% that no war crimes can be prevented with statements saying Russians go away. The only way to help our people that are on the occupied territories, and you can see these pictures of people being killed, tortured. Like we found a torture pit for kids, well, maybe teenagers, like for underage minors. So they took to torture rooms children that were 15, 16. And you cannot prevent it unless you give enough of weapons to Ukrainian army to kick them out, as we did in Kharkiv region, in Kyiv region, in Kherson. And another thing, I mean, air defense is also supposed to be called weapons, but it's to defend. And if we didn't have some of the air defense that we got from United States, from Germany, I believe that there were some talks to Italy about the air defense. We would not have this result, 37 out of 40, because our air defense is Soviet era old style, and I mean our military are doing something fantastic, absolutely fantastic, using our old jets, using these old systems, and they are resolvable. But we have a lot of soldiers, but we need modern weapons for them to, to defend our people.
Yeah.
Quindi Francesca ha chiesto cosa possiamo fare per aiutare l'Ucraina e cosa direbbe alle persone che sono contrarie all'invio di armi, dicendo che le armi fomentano il conflitto. E Yevgenia ha risposto che ringrazia che il Senato italiano pochi giorni fa abbia prorogato l'invio di armi in Ucraina e che nessun crimine di guerra può essere prevenuto con le dichiarazioni, diciamo, al vento che l'Ucraina deve essere liberata e che i russi se ne devono andare. Come per esempio ha citato il tema delle camere di tortura anche per minorenni di 15 o 16 anni, quindi questi crimini di guerra possono essere prevenuti soltanto con le armi, come è stato a Kherson e anche a Kiev. E poi un'altra cosa molto importante è la difesa aerea, air defense, che le ha fornito gli Stati Uniti e la Germania e forse anche l'Italia, e senza questi strumenti non avrebbero avuto la possibilità di difendersi, perché i loro strumenti che avevano erano risalenti di difesa aerea, risalenti all'età sovietica, quindi hanno tanti soldati ma hanno bisogno anche di tante armi.
Ok, vado io?
Yes.
Okay. So, Yevgenia, some newspaper, for example, the New York Times, recently highlighted the behavior of the Ukrainian army toward the Russian prisoners, talking of war crimes. What do you think about it?
Can you repeat that the Russians are being treated in Ukraine? Can you repeat the question?
Okay, some newspaper, for example,
Yes.
the New York Times, recently highlighted the behavior of the Ukrainian army toward the Russian prisoners, talking of war crimes.
Well, Russian prisoners are being fed, are being, treated due to the Geneva Convention. And, they have a choice because, that we have the exchanges. We want our people back. And actually, Russians are keeping women, are keeping civil people, not just combatants, not just military. So we, constantly having these exchanges. I mean, a few months ago, there was exchange that we got a paramedic, a woman, on the 9th month of pregnancy. She delivered like a week later after she got out of the Russian, prison. Well, she stayed at least somewhere in the hospital. But you can also Google, pictures how fighters from Azovstal looked like when they got out of Russian prison. They had to go to the hospital to have the surgery because and they were like twice as thin as they were before. And if you look at the pictures of Russian prisoners going, Russian soldiers that were exchanged and they go out of these buses, they look like they, are going out of the hotel or vacations. So they're being treated to the Geneva Convention. And when Red Cross wants to see them, they can come and see. But somehow International Red Cross cannot reach Ukrainian soldiers that are in prison. And we asked, for many times, please go to Olenivka. Olenivka is like a prison on the occupied territory. And it's like Osventim, no one can reach people. They are being tortured to death. And then they will say, something was blown up in the prison. That's why all these people are dead. So it's very easy to check how Russians that are in Ukraine, they either said, we're giving up, and go to a Ukrainian side, or they were taken by fight. But you can check how they look like. We have thousands of people. Sometimes we don't even have the list because Russians do not say we have this person or not. But we cannot even imagine what they're going through because no one, even humanitarian organizations, cannot reach them because Russians are not letting them in.
Sì, allora, Ivan ha chiesto ha detto che il New York Times riporta che alcuni comportamenti dei soldati ucraini costituiscono, cioè ipotizzano che ci siano dei crimini di guerra sui prigionieri russi, e l'onorevole Kravchuk ha risposto che i prigionieri russi sono stati nutriti, trattati secondo la Convenzione di Ginevra, hanno una scelta, cioè la scelta che si fa in questi casi è di spesso uno scambio di prigionieri, perché gli ucraini vogliono soldati loro che sono stati catturati dai russi, e i russi però stanno anche tenendo prigionieri di guerra persone che non sono combattenti, come i civili e i minori non soldati, appunto. In uno scambio di prigionieri c'è stata una paramedica che era stata sequestrata agli ultimi mesi di gravidanza, che ha partorito dopo che era stata anche in una prigione russa, e su Google si possono trovare le immagini dei prigionieri post Azovstal, che hanno dovuto subire anche degli interventi chirurgici, e che erano la metà del peso rispetto a quando erano stati catturati. Invece i soldati russi catturati dagli ucraini, quando sono usciti dallo stato di prigionia, erano come se fossero stati fuori da un hotel o da una vacanza. Sono stati trattati secondo la Convenzione di Ginevra, e la Croce Rossa ha avuto qualsiasi possibilità di vedere e visitare i prigionieri russi sotto, appunto, la custodia ucraina. E invece gli ucraini in prigionia russa non possono essere stati visitati, non c'è neanche una lista dei prigionieri, alcuni sono stati torturati a morte, e poi c'è stato anche l'incidente, quello dell'esplosione. I russi non dicono appunto se una persona è in stato di prigionia, e neanche le organizzazioni umanitarie hanno accesso a questo tipo di alle visite per i prigionieri di guerra.
Ok. Vai Francesco con la prossima domanda.
Sì, allora, Russia, as you said, today is bombing civilian targets as utilities infrastructure, water, electricity, and you are an important member of the parliament from the Zelensky party, so you're governing. How your role as member of the parliament has changed between before the 24th of February and today? So are you have a role in conveying information from the government to the people?
Well, of course, I mean, our role had changed since the 24th of February, but our parliament had a sitting on the 24th of February. And it all started in 5 in the morning, and in 7:40 we were in the parliament voting for the, state of war, the martial state. And afterwards, a lot of people, they went to their constituencies. We gathered every week or every 2 weeks to vote for legislation, and we gathered in the parliament, not somewhere in bunker, not somewhere in Poland or even Western Ukraine. We did it in Kiev, in the center of the city. And we actually knew that we are also a target, and we are in all of these lists, black lists, to be eliminated. But that's our job. And as you know, and we're also grateful for Italy for support. In June, Ukraine gained official candidate status to join European Union. And Ukrainian parliament are passing a lot of laws that are bringing us closer to European Union. We're implementing the directives and legislation of European Union to our codes and to our legislation. And just 3 days ago, we had a big meeting of our parliament, a big sitting, and we voted for 3 big reforms. One of it in media sphere, and we implemented the European Union directive on audiovisual media to our legislation, and I'm co-author it, and it's actually like a media reform. So you can imagine that a country that is in the middle of this huge war of aggression from another country, we are implementing reforms. We are gathering, we are doing our job. And of course, we did a lot of, like diplomatic work, interparliamentary work. And actually, for the first 2 or 3 months, we had only women leaving the country. So only women, members of parliament. They formed these delegations, and in PACE, Francesco maybe remembered that in March we actually kicked out Russia out of Council of Europe because they violated every line in the Charter of Human Rights, that they signed when they entered Council of Europe, and we came with only women delegation. Actually, one of my colleagues had to bring kids with her because she didn't have anyone to be sitting with them. So we just do what we can to help and to bring more aid to Ukraine and to help Ukrainian people. A lot of members of parliament became very engaged in humanitarian work as well, bringing stuff into the country.
Thank you. Quindi ho chiesto come è cambiato il ruolo da parlamentare prima e dopo l'attacco, e lei ha detto che alle 5 del mattino del 24 febbraio è stata dichiarata guerra, e allora alle 7:40 erano a votare lo stato di guerra in Parlamento. Non erano in Polonia, non erano all'est Ucraina, ma erano proprio nel Parlamento ucraino, sapendo che erano un bersaglio anche russo, però quello è il loro lavoro e loro lo hanno fatto con senso di onore, e poi hanno votato l'adesione all'Unione Europea, stanno votando anche tutte le varie direttive, l'implementazione delle direttive per avvicinare le legislazioni. E immaginatevi cosa vuol dire durante una guerra, durante appunto i bombardamenti, votare riforme sui servizi pubblici e sulla libertà dei media. E poi c'è stato un grande lavoro di diplomazia parlamentare, e anche se nel primo periodo, come a marzo, soltanto le donne parlamentari hanno formato una delegazione per andare all'estero e sensibilizzare gli altri parlamenti su quello che stava succedendo, e hanno anche appunto a marzo votato insieme agli altri stati per mandare via la Russia dal Consiglio d'Europa, perché la Russia ha chiaramente violato tutte le regole di diritto umanitario europeo, e una sua collega si è anche portata il bambino perché non aveva nessuno che poteva tenerlo. So I have another question. How could you see the future of Ukraine in the after war, about reconstruction and relation with the economic reform, and also with the EU, but you partially responded before, and NATO. So how do you see, and what is the internal debate in Ukraine? Because we don't see, we don't hear and see how is the internal debate on Ukraine on those topics. Of course, we are more focused on war.
Well, there are no internal debate because more than 90% of Ukrainians want to join European Union. So it's not the matter of discussion. And more than 85% want Ukraine to join NATO, because NATO, it's not just 4 letters, it's NATO is security guarantees that this attack will not happen afterwards, in 5 years, in 8 years. Because this neighbor that has imperialism in their mind is not going anywhere. So of course I see Ukraine as a member of European Union, and actually we will be making European Union stronger, because you can see how dependent world is on Ukrainian grain, for example, Ukrainian food. As well, Ukraine is a great exporter of IT. We're doing great job in reform of digitalization. Basically, in these last 3 years, after Zelensky came, and we said that the reform on IT and digitalization is one of our biggest aims, we created a special procedure for IT companies, and they pay less taxes, but they can work more and develop more products in Ukraine. So I definitely see that these 2 spheres will be developing as well. And of course, it will be a very huge market for the companies that work in infrastructure, because some of the Ukrainian cities will not be able to be it's not restoration or restoration. It's not rebuilding. It's just building from scratch. Especially cities that are close to the right now the front line in the east and in the south. And of course it's sad because people they will miss their homes, but from the other side it's the same thing that happened with many European cities after Second World War. They were so destroyed by bombs that some of the cities, they rethought how they should look like, and they developed the city structure which is good for citizens, well planned. So there will be a lot of job to do, work done, but I think we also need to seriously talk and do about this frozen Russian money. I don't think it's fair that only taxpayers of European Union, United States, Great Britain should be paying, for the help, for the refugees, for everything. You have like 300 billion of dollars or euro of these frozen assets, and these are also the state money of Russia. And Russia is basically a state which is sponsoring terrorism. That's the pure terrorism. They violated all of the rules of United Nations. So it's fair to take those money and to use for reparations to Ukraine, as it was, after the Second World War. We need this new Marshall Plan for Ukraine. And of course, another thing that needs to be dealt with is accountability. Because if these crimes will go unpunished, then in another corner of the world, another tyrant will think, okay, I'll do the same with my neighbor, because the world, do not punish those countries that violate the rules. So I think also we need to establish this tribunal, international ad hoc tribunal, as it was Nuremberg after Second World War, to punish political and military leadership of Russia.
Thank you. Quindi io ho chiesto qual è la visione del partito nel dopoguerra sulle ricostruzioni e le relazioni economiche, anche la relazione con l'UE e la NATO, e l'onorevole ha risposto che il 90% degli ucraini vuole entrare nell'Unione Europea, la NATO è una garanzia di sicurezza, e la scusa che la NATO è un imperialista non regge, non è condivisa dalla popolazione, ma c'è anche un vantaggio per l'Unione Europea ad avere l'Ucraina come membro, perché l'Ucraina è un grande esportatore di grano, c'è una dipendenza da parte di molti paesi verso il grano ucraino, e c'è anche un grande sviluppo del settore informatico, delle infrastrutture di comunicazione, information technology, e verranno fatte le riforme per permettere anche alle imprese di insediarsi in Ucraina e pagare meno tasse. Allo stesso tempo c'è un grande bisogno di infrastrutture, perché tante città sono rase al suolo. È triste perché tante persone hanno perso la propria casa, però anche quindi le città devono completamente ripensarsi, però questa è un'occasione per utilizzare i 300 miliardi congelati dall'Europa, i 300 miliardi dei russi e degli oligarchi russi che sono in Europa e sono stati congelati, perché non è giusto che gli europei paghino per la ricostruzione con le loro tasse, e questo deve ripagarlo la Russia, perché non è stato sponsor del terrorismo, che ha violato ogni singola regola, e è giusto prendere quindi questi soldi, questi 300 miliardi russi, e utilizzarli come riparazioni ucraine, come è avvenuto nella Seconda Guerra Mondiale. E poi c'è anche un tema di responsabilità, perché se questi crimini non verranno puniti, altri stati potrebbero dire allora anche io mi comporto da stato terrorista, quindi serve un tribunale internazionale stile Norimberga.
Ok, allora provo intanto con la domanda perché le ultime due domande riguardano appunto, che volevo fare entrambi i punti che ha toccato in questo discorso, quindi ne approfitterei. And I would like to ask you about something you said now. And first of all, I want to ask you about the future peace negotiation, and if you could could European membership be a guarantee against any future further aggression? And also speaking about Ukrainian territory, what will happen to Crimea and Donbass?
Crimea and Donbass is Ukrainian territory, so they need to be given back to, we will take it back to Ukraine, because in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and started war in Donetsk and Luhansk regions, the world were saying, do not start the war, it will be a problem, please, we will we'll impose sanctions on Russia, but if you fight for Crimea, it will be a mess. And Putin saw it as a weakness. So that's why in 2022 he decided he can take all of the Ukraine, or at least biggest part of Ukraine, because when they were saying that they will be in 2 weeks in Kiev, or like 3 days in Kiev, they actually thought they can come and conquer the capital. Of course, they sort of believed in their own propaganda, thinking then their army is the second biggest and largest in the world. And now we can see that even 10 months later, they cannot actually, get the whole Donbass, because, our army is not weak. I would say that our army is one of the strongest in Europe. Of course, we need more technology, we need more, sophisticated weapons, but our army will train some other European armies after we finish with this war. And about peace negotiations, Russians are not thinking seriously about peace negotiations. All they need is time to regroup, to take some Iranian drones, to buy something from, I don't know, Korea or Northern Korea, where they can buy stuff, or, Iran, probably the biggest seller. And then strike again and come to Kiev again. So no, it's just, I'm sorry, bullshit, what they're saying about peace negotiations. The only way to be talking to Russians in some way is after they take out all of the soldiers from Ukrainian territory, and then we can, talk about the security guarantees, about reparations, and something like that. But in other case, this war will come back in 5 years or 8 years, because we need to restore. It has to be just peace. If it will not be just peace, it will repeat again in 5, 8, 10 years.
Thank you. Allora, la domanda è il futuro delle negoziazioni di pace e se la membership dell'Unione Europea è una garanzia, e poi sul territorio ucraino, sul futuro della Crimea e del Donbass. L'onorevole ha risposto che la Crimea e il Donbass sono territorio ucraino, quindi devono essere restituiti e loro se li riprenderanno. Nel 2014 la Russia ha attaccato il Donbass e il mondo ha detto no, non cominciamo una guerra su questi temi, facciamo le sanzioni. Putin ha visto questa reazione come una debolezza e per questo ha deciso di attaccare, e i russi pensavano in 3-4 giorni di conquistare Kiev e in realtà il secondo esercito del mondo non può neanche prendere il Donbass, perché gli ucraini si stanno difendendo e la difesa ucraina, l'esercito ucraino è delle più forti che c'è adesso in Europa, e addirittura dopo questa guerra i soldati ucraini potranno anche addestare l'esercito europeo. I russi in questo momento non stanno pensando alle negoziazioni di pace, stanno pensando soltanto a prendere più droni dall'Iran e dalla Nord Corea e andare a bombardare l'Ucraina. Quindi le negoziazioni di pace in questo momento sono una cazzata, perché l'unica via con cui si può parlare con i russi è di dire innanzitutto che i soldati devono andare via dal territorio, parlare di garanzie di sicurezza e parlare di riparazioni. Perché se non ci sarà una pace giusta c'è il rischio che questa guerra si ripeta in 5-8 anni.
Okay. And the other question is about war crime trials. And I would like to ask you, because you talked about before. So we know that Putin is a war criminal, also his associates and who help him. And would the judgment of the International Criminal Court be enough, or would be a specific court be needed to convict him and his associates, in your opinion?
Yes, thank you a lot for this question, because it's true that International Criminal Court can only deal with like specific soldier that came to Bucha and shot a civilian and tied, hands and shot, or raped a woman or a kid. And International Criminal Court is doing their job. They will be doing it for years. But to punish the crime of aggression, and the crime of aggression, it's basically the mother crime. When one country, one state decided to invade another state, and after that all of these war crimes happened, we need to establish this international ad hoc tribunal. And then this tribunal can be dealing with crime of aggression, and it's very easy to see who started, who are the main players, who are the generals, who Putin and his people together with him, who are responsible for the start of this war. And yes, it's like Nuremberg after a Second World War, but it will not take a lot of money, because you can see they're not hiding it. They are saying, yes, we're bombing Ukrainian city. Yes, we started. We'll be doing this. So I think it could be like a treaty signed between the countries that will establish this ad hoc tribunal. And actually, a few days ago, Netherlands officially stated that they want and they are able to host this international tribunal in Hague.
Okay, thank you.
Which city? In The Hague. The Hague. Yes.
Hague. Mm-hmm.
Ok. Allora, Francesca ha chiesto, ha detto che chiaramente Putin è un criminale di guerra, se può bastare la Corte Penale Internazionale oppure serve un tribunale speciale. L'onorevole ha risposto che la Corte Penale Internazionale sta perseguendo alcuni crimini limitatamente al tema dei crimini di guerra avvenuti in Bucha, che hanno ucciso, stuprato e ucciso minori. La Corte Penale Internazionale sta facendo un grande lavoro, ma non basta. Serve un tribunale che possa perseguire il crimine di aggressione, che è un crimine precedente ai crimini di guerra che avvengono quando la guerra comincia già. È molto semplice riuscire a dimostrare che questo crimine c'è stato, l'aggressione, perché questo reato internazionale, perché sono gli stessi russi che ammettono che stanno bombardando le città, e per instaurare questo tribunale serve che vari stati si accordino per crearlo, e tra l'altro l'Olanda lo ha appena fatto, perché in Olanda tra l'altro c'è anche l'AIA, dove ha sede la Corte Penale Internazionale e la Corte di Giustizia Internazionale.
Sì, peraltro Germania e Spagna so che con la giurisdizione internazionale, scusate, la giurisdizione universale hanno iniziato dei procedimenti sulla I would like to explain a thing in Italian, I'm sorry, about the crime you talk about, perché il crimine di aggressione non è perseguibile dalla Corte Penale Internazionale, perché non sono stati, cioè per perseguire quel determinato crimine gli stati devono aver firmato gli accordi di Kampala del 2010, quindi per quel determinato crimine. Quindi per quello la deputata dice che in quel caso servirebbe un tribunale specifico.
Yep.
Okay.
She said, Evgenia, she explained the difference between International Criminal Court and the crime of aggression. Yeah. Ivan?
Yeah.
Okay. The last question is...
How many you got time, Evgenia, no? We're not...
No, I think I have 10
withholding
minutes.
you too much.
10 more minutes.
Ok, 10 minutes. Perfetto.
Okay, perfect.
Ok, io
Thank
tanto
you.
un'ultima domanda, diciamo, questa è un po' più una curiosità. In your opinion, why a lots of Italian media do propaganda pro-Russia? We have lots of conspirators and pro-Russia professor in our TV program. Why, in your opinion?
Why it's happening? Why it is still possible in European Union that you have propaganda?
Yeah.
Propaganda? Yeah, it's a very good question because I'm dealing with it. I'm a former journalist myself, and I'm watching and reading all of this propaganda crap they publish in social media just to understand what they're trying, what messages they're trying to suppress. Yeah. I think that Russians, they were preparing for this war, not just, preparing for tanks or for missiles. And of course, probably half of the money was stolen. That's why the Russian army, is doing so poorly. But anyway, they also spent a lot of money for propaganda and for their agents inside of European Union because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to find some organizations they can work with, or to put some disbalance inside of the European Union. Look, Hungary is friends, is being friends with Russia, and they're putting, the European Union into jeopardy. And also, it's very interesting because all of these propaganda journalists in Russia, for example, Solovyov, that he had a big house at Lake Como. He's not going for vacation. He didn't want to go for vacation somewhere in mid Russia, in Nizhny Novgorod or Ryazan. He wanted to go to European Union, to spend money there. And actually this money was stolen from Russian people because Putin had to pay his propagandists. And I think that European Union has to be very strict with propaganda channels. And for example, Russia today is already banned in European Union. And I believe in the ninth package that was, I think just I saw it in the news that Ursula von der Leyen said that, European Council came together and finally said that ninth package of sanctions is okay, good to go. There are some other channels from Russia that should be banned on the territory of European Union because it's not journalism. They're just trying to fool you and to give you these lies to believe. But yes, the people are being paid for this. Sometimes they're just are workers of FSB, of the Secret Service of Russia. And it's not also a big news that in every country you would have some scandals with Russian agents working inside of the country, and they are being caught and put to Russia.
Also here.
Can I ask, how do you demonstrate the link between the Russian secret services and the propagandists? Because that would be very useful also for us, because of course there is a thin line between the right of free speech and preventing Russian propaganda, scientific Russian propaganda, to be then spreaded in our territory. How can we be more aware of this?
First of all, there are no independent media in Russia. All of the media that are working in Russia and are even being, putting into the satellite to European Union, they are not independent. Russia passed a law that no media can write about the war of Ukraine other than what Ministry of Defense are saying. You can get 15 years in prison if you write truth about attack of Russia to Ukraine. So there is no Russian. If you see Russian media, don't believe it. Maybe some opposition media that work in Europe and registered in Europe can deliver some, news. But everyone who is working from Russia is not independent for sure. That's first. Second, just a few weeks ago, and I can send a link, I'm not sure if it's translated in English, but there was a break of emails between Russian propagandists and FSB, Secret Service. And they were sending them letters saying how state TV should show and should talk about this special operation. They are covering up the number of their losses. They're not telling about it. They gave them the way how media should talk about like Bucha, that it's all stated, they're all actors, these people are not real, it's not real, and everything like this. So it's not about journalism, it's about instrument of war. And actually, it happened before in history, because in Second World War, in Nuremberg Tribunal, there was editor-in-chief of Nazi newspaper. And he was put also into this trial because he was saying, yes, go and kill Jews, go kill people. And in genocide in Rwanda, in tribunals, that they also had a head of radio station that were asking, go and kill Tutsi. And where this radio was covering, there was 10 times more killings of Tutsi than where this radio was not working. So it's, history knows it. And of course, if TV channel or TV anchor says that Ukrainian kids should be killed, then it's something wrong with them.
Yeah, this is completely crazy, and thank you for your witnessing. Allora, Ivan ha chiesto perché tanti italiani credono alla propaganda russa e perché ci sono anche tante persone che la fanno. E lei ha detto: questa è una buona domanda, io sono una giornalista e ha cercato dall'inizio di capire la propaganda russa, e lei è arrivata alla conclusione che questa guerra era stata preparata non solo militarmente, ma anche appunto preparando degli agenti all'interno dell'Unione Europea, perché era molto meno costoso e più efficace. E anche se quando ha detto che quando è stata preparata la guerra dal punto di vista militare, viste le povere performance dell'esercito russo, metà soldi se li sono rubati i soldati. Poi ha citato all'interno dell'Unione Europea il tema dell'Ungheria, che è nella posizione di creare danno e indebolire la posizione dell'Unione Europea. Ha citato Solovev, che è un giornalista di propaganda russa che aveva la casa vacanze a Como, però per andare non voleva andare in vacanza appunto in Russia, ma voleva andare in Italia, e i soldi con cui lui viene in Italia sono i soldi che ha di cui Putin lo pagava per la propaganda. L'Unione Europea quindi deve essere più dura contro questa propaganda, e Russia Today è stata bandita, è stato approvato il 9° pacchetto di sanzioni, ma ci sono altri canali che devono essere banditi, perché la propaganda non è giornalismo, ma sono prese in giro, e in ogni stato ci sono rapporti fra l'informazione e i servizi segreti russi, e a volte escono scandali appunto dove emergono queste relazioni. E io ho chiesto qual è la differenza fra la libera espressione e la propaganda scientifica invece russa, e l'onorevole ha risposto che nessun media in Russia è indipendente, per legge solo il Ministero della Difesa può parlare della guerra, e chi parla della guerra senza autorizzazione rischia 15 anni di galera. I servizi segreti dicono alle TV russe come raccontare la guerra, nascondono il numero di morti, e hanno creato una narrativa su Bucha dove appunto si dice che è tutto finto e ci sono gli attori. Questo appunto non è giornalismo, ma è uno strumento di guerra. E a Norimberga, e ha citato poi l'esempio di Norimberga, dove editori di giornali che erano nazisti sono stati processati per crimini di guerra, ma anche l'esempio più recente del Ruanda, dove è stato incriminato un direttore di una radio, e hanno dimostrato che dove venivano trasmesse le trasmissioni di questa rete, dove c'era un editore radio che incitava le persone a uccidere gli altri, c'erano 10 volte più morti rispetto a dove le trasmissioni non erano appunto trasmesse, e quindi da questo punto di vista la storia insegna.
Senti Francesco, prima di salutarla, non so se gli vogliamo chiedere se in futuro ci sarà la possibilità, e ci piacerebbe ospitare Zelensky.
Sì, so of course it's been an honor to have you here, and thank you for your time in these difficult and terrible times. It's important for us to give a real first line perspective, because of course we also, our debate is also polluted by propaganda, and it will be and what Ivan Greco asked is if it would be possible one day to have also the President Zelensky live with us, with the young Italian people.
I can give you contact of his press secretary.
Ok. Ha detto che ci può dare il contatto dell'ufficio stampa.
Ok, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That's very good.
Slava Ucraini.
Slava Ucraini.
Героям слава. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you really.
And good luck.